Married life was a bore, so I got a canary to spice things up. I never imagined a rumor would somehow reach my contract husband. After that, he started coming home frequently, and he became inventive. Until one day, he casually asked, "So, when do I get to meet the little canary you're hiding? What's so fascinating about him?" I went stiff. "You want to meet him?" When he said yes, I took him straight to my bird, a bright yellow Gloucester canary. Peter Fairchild and I were legally married due to a mutually beneficial deal. We had known each other since childhood, but familiarity never grew into closeness. We were polite strangers bound by paperwork. After the ceremony, Peter buried himself in expanding his business empire. I did the same with mine. Our paths rarely crossed, and that distance suited us just fine. Recently, he had been tied up with an international collaboration, disappearing overseas for weeks on end. My friends, of course, found this endlessly amusing. "You used to joke about wanting a husband who never comes home and just wires money," one of them laughed, swirling her glass. "But Peter is basically top-tier material. With him gone all the time, I can't tell if you hit the jackpot or lost completely." Another leaned in. "Honestly, Allison, your married life looks exactly like your single life. Work, events, meetings. Aren't you bored? Haven't you ever thought about finding alternative entertainment?" Bored? Maybe a little. That was probably why, when I passed a street market lined with flower stands and a small pet shop, I pulled over without thinking. I left with a bundle of white lisianthus in one hand and a birdcage in the other. Inside the cage was a puff of sunshine, soft feathers, and bright eyes. The shop owner told me it was a Gloucester canary. It chirped endlessly, a cheerful sound that somehow lifted my mood the entire drive home. I didn't bring the bird to the house, Peter, and I shared. That space was neutral territory. Instead, I set him up in one of my private villas, complete with a housekeeper to handle daily care. Bringing a pet home without discussing it felt inappropriate, even in a marriage like ours. The day I officially became a bird owner, I couldn't help calling my best friend, Sophie. The background noise on her end was chaos, voices overlapping, music blaring. She put me on speaker, so she could hear me. I raised my voice. "I told you, I got a canary on the side now." The line went dead silent. "Sophie." I frowned. She came back in a sharp whisper. "Are you trying to ruin your life? Do you know where I am right now? What are you talking about?" I was honestly confused. "It's just a bird." "Lower your voice," she hissed. "That's not something you announce proudly." After that strange conversation, rumors started floating around. People went quiet when I entered rooms, exchanged looks, whispered about me and some mysterious canary. I was too busy to investigate and honestly didn't care. Then one night, I came home late and sensed something was wrong the moment I stepped inside. The atmosphere felt heavier. I looked up and froze. A man sat silently on the living room sofa. The husband I hadn't seen in over 2 weeks had returned without warning. "Peter?" I walked closer, setting my bag down. "I thought you were overseas until next week. You don't want me back?" His tone was unfamiliar, sharp beneath the calm. "What?" I blinked. He seemed ready to say more, then stopped himself, jaw tightening. His expression was dark, restless. I reached out instinctively and brushed his cheek. "Are you feeling okay? You don't look well." He wasn't warm. The next second, his arm wrapped around my waist and pulled me down onto his lap. Before I could react, his mouth claimed mine. This wasn't affection. It was hunger. Urgent, possessive, almost angry. I tried to protest, murmuring something about needing a shower, but he ignored it. He lifted me effortlessly and headed for the bathroom, strength radiating from every movement. Peter was always fit, disciplined. Tonight, that control felt feral. He didn't slow down when I cried. Instead, he whispered questions against my skin, asking me who he was to me. Husband.
Partner. Mine.
None of it seemed enough, yet he demanded every answer. Steam filled the room, and I clung to him like driftwood in rough water. Somewhere in the haze, I heard him murmur, "You belong to me."
Of course I did. I just didn't have the strength to say it.
The next morning, I finally asked about his schedule. "The project is almost finished," he said calmly. "I delegated the rest. I'll be staying here for a while." "But you said it needed your full attention." He nodded slowly. "Some things here are more important." I didn't realize what he meant. From that day forward, Peter changed. Despite our busy careers, he was always home. Sometimes he arrived before I did. One evening, I stepped into the kitchen and stopped short. Peter stood there wearing an apron, a tray of food in his hands. The sight was dangerously distracting. A fitted black tank top showed off the results of years of discipline, the apron somehow making it worse. Domestic competence had never been part of our agreement, yet here he was. "You're back," he said softly. "Dinner's ready. Go wash your hands." It was the first meal my husband had ever cooked for me. "Is it good?" he asked as I tasted it. I nodded immediately. "Really good." He watched me closely. "If home cooking is this good, you won't need to eat out anymore. It's healthier." I smiled. "You're too busy to do this every day." He said nothing. Later, while he showered, I called Sophie. "Is your husband nearby?" she whispered.
No.
She laughed quietly. "So, how's your canary?" "Oh, adorable," I said cheerfully. "He rubs his head against my fingers like he's spoiled." Her laughter turned strange.
Wow.
"Didn't know you were into that." "Just be careful. You're still married." "Careful about what?" Footsteps sounded behind me. Peter stood there, towel low on his hips, water tracing down his body. He watched me with unreadable eyes. "Who was that?" he asked. "Sophie," I said, but the call had already ended. He took my phone, set it aside, and stepped closer. He lifted my hand, pressing his cheek into my palm, eyes locked onto mine. "Do you like this?" he asked quietly. My mind went blank. "Peter, did you hear my call?" His breath hitched. "If this is what you want, I can give it to you. You don't need anyone else." Before I could explain, he kissed me, deeply, insistently. Through the fog, a thought flickered. I was talking about a bird. Why was my husband jealous of a canary? I abandoned the idea of ever bringing my pet home. Peter grew clingier, whispering things that unraveled me completely. He had never been this vocal, this intense. I barely recognized him. After work one day, I stopped by my villa to visit my bird. He had grown rounder, fluffier, clearly thriving. The moment he saw me, he fluttered onto my hand. "You're such a good boy," I murmured.
My phone rang.
"Where are you?" Peter asked after a pause. "I'm heading home now," I replied quickly. That night, tangled in sheets, he leaned close and whispered, "Was I good, Mama?" My entire body froze. As sleep claimed me, I thought I heard him mutter, almost resentfully, "Why won't you say it to me?" Surely, I had imagined it. From my perspective, our marriage was finally settling into something stable. Peter and I were overall doing well. He was attentive, affectionate, perhaps a little too attached, and his desires had become noticeably stronger, but I chalked that up to newly discovered enthusiasm. The charity gala that evening required both of us to attend, representing our respective families. I wore a custom-made gown, paired with the jewelry Peter had gifted me after returning home. My wedding ring caught the light every time I moved. The venue buzzed with conversation, the main program yet to begin. I searched the crowd for my husband, and eventually spotted him standing off to the side with his two closest friends, Leo and Mark. The two men were speaking animatedly, their expressions tense, almost irritated, like exasperated guardians lecturing someone who refused to listen. As I approached, Leo noticed me first. He strode toward me with startling aggression, clearly prepared to unload whatever grievance he was holding on to. I racked my memory, but could not recall ever offending him or Mark. Before he could say anything, Peter grabbed Leo's arm and murmured something under his breath. Leo stopped immediately, though the scowl never left his face. Peter came to my side. "What were they saying to you?" I asked quietly. "Was it about me?" He shook his head. "Just a misunderstanding. Don't worry about it." He refused to elaborate, but it was obvious the conversation had left him unsettled. At the auction, we both placed generous bids. Then the host introduced the next piece. Our next work comes from the acclaimed artist Isabella Croft. We are honored to have Ms. Croft here tonight to speak about her creation. The name made me pause. When a woman in a flowing white gown stepped onto the stage, my suspicion was confirmed. I glanced instinctively at Peter. Isabella Croft, the treasured daughter of a long-standing artistic family. She and Peter had grown up together. Years ago, there had been whispers of an arranged match between them, whispers that never materialized. She had left the country not long after, and until tonight, I had heard nothing of her return. Before Peter married me, she had been the one closest to him. On stage, she spoke with elegance and grace, her every movement refined and poetic. She was my opposite, I was practical, ambitious. My marriage was strategic, built on mutual gain, not romance. Neither Peter nor I bid on her painting, though I noticed her gaze linger on him more than once. The artwork sold for an astonishing amount. As the night wore on, I felt eyes following us. Society thrived on speculation, so I ignored it until I checked my phone. Someone I vaguely knew had posted a photo with Isabella. The caption read, "The princess returns to reclaim her love." I raised an eyebrow. The love in question would be. I took a slow sip of champagne and scanned the room.
Peter was gone.
So was Isabella. I hesitated only briefly before searching. Peter might have a complicated past, an unresolved affection, but he could not humiliate me by crossing a line. I found them in a quiet hallway. Isabella was crying, makeup smudged, shoulders trembling. I was too far to hear everything, only catching a bitter phrase about a woman with a scarlet reputation. Peter's face was turned away from me, his voice calm and icy. "That isn't true. You misunderstood. And regardless, it has nothing to do with you." I stepped closer and called out, "Honey." Peter turned instantly. The moment he saw me, his rigid posture softened. Without sparing Isabella another glance, he walked over, took my hand, and guided me away. "You're just leaving her like that?" I asked. "How else should I leave?" he replied evenly. "She's crying," I whispered. He did not look back. "That has nothing to do with us."
Us.
That word lingered. "He's in love with you," I said quietly. He did not deny it. Instead, a faint, cold smile touched his lips. "Anyone who tries to interfere with a marriage is pitiful." His principles were surprisingly firm. I studied him. "Why didn't the two of you ever get together?" I wasn't interested. The answer was flat, dismissive. He had not been interested in me either, at least not initially. Our marriage had been negotiated, not pursued. Peter drank heavily that night. Whether his mood stemmed from earlier events or Isabella's appearance, I could not say. Back home, he rested his head against my shoulder, caught between sobriety and exhaustion. "What's been troubling you lately?" I asked gently. He lifted his head. His eyes were red, strained, as though he had been suppressing something painful. After a long silence, he finally spoke. "When are you going to let me meet the canary you're keeping on the side? What makes him so special?"
Ah.
So he knew. I stared at him. "You want to meet him?" "Yes," he muttered. I pulled him up, already calling the driver. "Then let's go. Right now." My bird was adorable. Irresistibly so. I had worried Peter might dislike him, which was why I never shared photos publicly. Sophie had been the only one I told, and even she had been strangely dismissive. "Why does it look like a fat chicken?" she had replied. He was not fat. He was fluffy. Perfectly fluffy. Peter remained quiet during the drive. As we neared the villa, he spoke. "This is the place you lived before the marriage," he said. "You let him stay here?"
Yes.
"Is that a problem?" His voice carried an edge of childish resentment. "I've never been here." I did not understand. I owned multiple properties. This was simply one he had never visited. Despite being half drunk, he intertwined his fingers with mine as we entered. The housekeeper was startled awake, greeted us briefly, then retreated. "You even hired someone to take care of him," Peter murmured. It finally clicked. He was jealous. Of a bird. I led him through the house and into the glass-enclosed aviary. The moment we stepped inside, a sharp chirp echoed through the space, followed by a melodic song. The little yellow creature fluttered down and landed in my palm. I held him out proudly. "Isn't he precious?" Peter stared. "That's the canary?"
Yes.
"A Gloucester canary. Why hide a bird?" he asked, baffled. "Because I heard you hated canaries." He froze. I thought it was. "What?" I asked, narrowing my eyes. Whatever he had imagined, it clearly was not this. Guilt crossed his face, genuine and raw. After some probing, the truth finally surfaced. "So," I said slowly, piecing it together. "You cut your trip short, started coming home constantly, and did all of that because you thought I was seeing another man?" "Why didn't you just ask?" I demanded. I was scared. He buried his face against my neck. "What if you chose him over me?" I nearly laughed from disbelief. "You're my husband," I said, sighing. "This misunderstanding is on both of us." We were married, bound by convenience, yet neither of us had bothered to communicate. The bird eventually settled, chirping softly. We stayed the night. My old bedroom was the only one maintained regularly. Peter made do with a towel. When I stepped out of the bathroom, he pulled me into a tight embrace. "I'm sorry," he whispered. "If you're angry, yell at me, hit me, just don't ignore me." I pushed him onto the bed. "What exactly were you trying to do this past month?" "I was trying to make you stay," he admitted. "To make you choose me." "So you assume my morals were that weak?" I asked quietly. "I'm sorry." I held his gaze. "Do you have feelings for me?" "Yes." He met my eyes. Vulnerable.
Honest.
"You can punish me," he whispered, "but don't leave me." I exhaled slowly. We both failed to communicate, and for the first time, our marriage felt less like a contract and more like something fragile, something real. I exhaled slowly. "I'm partly to blame, too. I shouldn't have paid attention to rumors about what you like or dislike. I should have just asked you. If I had been honest from the start, none of this would have escalated. Marriage required communication, plain and simple." Peter pressed a soft, lingering kiss to my lips. "It's my fault," he murmured, admitting guilt, asking for forgiveness, something most adults struggled to do. Yet Peter made it seem effortless. He rested my hand on his chest. "You can do whatever you want to me," he added, almost teasingly. The tension from the past weeks melted. I wasn't angry. His restraint and honesty under the circumstances made it impossible to condemn him. But this wasn't our penthouse. We didn't have the necessary tools to fully indulge. Peter guided me gently to the bed, brushing delicate kisses across my eyelids. "Let me take care of you," he whispered, his lips tracing a path downward. I thought back to our wedding night. Then he had been tentative, unsure, careful.
Now he knew me.
The next morning, I awoke to an empty bed. After freshening up, I found Peter in the aviary, feeding my little canary. The bird, normally fond of my hand, fluttered happily between us. I stroked its head. "Good boy," I said softly. Peter glanced up. "So that's his name too?" "That's what I call him."
Boy.
He fell silent, eyes narrowing as if piecing something together. I leaned in, smirking. "And when you called me Mama," he cut me off with a soft, almost shy kiss. I grinned. "Jealous of a little bird, Peter? That's impressive." He stared at me, then whispered, "Mama." My eyes widened. Broad daylight, our voices audible. If anyone had heard that, we'd die of embarrassment. Peter's lips curved. "You liked it, didn't you?" "Maybe." Once the misunderstanding was resolved, I called Sophie to clarify the rumor. On the video screen, she stared at the little yellow bird perched on my hand. "That's the little fat chicken you sent me a photo of? That's your canary?" I nodded. Then she burst into uncontrollable laughter. "I'm dying," she gasped between breaths. "I swear I didn't start it. I was at a loud dinner party, told everyone to quiet down, and then you announced your canary on speaker. My brain, it went wild. Everyone thought you were keeping a man on the side." I couldn't help but laugh. "Don't worry," she promised. "I'll fix it." Within days, the rumor spread, but now everyone knew the truth. The so-called lover was just a bright yellow canary. A few days later, Leo and Mark, the very same friends who had seemed ready to fight me at the gala, visited my villa to apologize. Leo eyed the canary perched calmly on my hand. "Allison, where did you find him?" Peter later told me Leo had tried owning a bird once, but it only pecked him. "I found him on the street," I replied coolly. I hadn't forgotten how ready they had been to defend Peter's honor. Perhaps they had been the ones who tipped him off, prompting his abrupt return.
Peter escorted them out.
"If that's all, you should go. We're not hosting dinner." After they left, Peter turned to me. "Still mad? You can hit me if you need to." I didn't have the inclination to strike him, but I gave him a pointed glare. The canary suddenly fluttered onto Peter's shoulder and left a little surprise on his designer shirt. Silence. Then I burst into laughter, petting the bird as it returned to my hand. "Good boy." Peter's face was a mixture of resignation and amusement, and then he laughed too. Some believed the canary story, some didn't. Many preferred the gossip version, imagining I had a lover. Isabella Croft, of course, was in the non-believers' camp. At Peter's mother's birthday banquet, she intercepted me near the restroom. Cold, sharp, she asked, "Allison, if you don't love Peter, why marry him?" I smiled sweetly. "Peter is the heir to the Fairchild fortune. Need me to list the benefits?" Her face twisted with disdain. "So, it's about money and power?" "Of course not," I replied, amused. As I turned to leave, she warned. I'll find your lover and expose you to the Fairchild family. I arched a brow. Good luck finding someone who doesn't exist. Peter is tall, handsome, kind, incredible in bed and wealthy. Anyone less than him wouldn't catch my attention. Isabella froze. I turned and met Peter's gaze. I came looking for you, he said calmly. You weren't answering your phone. I was being lectured by his obsessed ex. Fortunately, someone here defends your honor, I quipped. Peter's expression hardened. Isabella, the Crofts raised you better than to pursue a married man. Please show some self-respect. Tears formed in her eyes. Peter, we knew each other first. You weren't ready then. I said I would wait, but 2 years later. Peter remained unmoved. I never asked you to wait. I waited for Allison. She chose me, and I married her. Simple as that. On the ride home, I kept glancing at him. Curiosity won. What did you mean? Waiting for me to choose you? He covered his eyes briefly, then confessed. I love you. I have for a long time. Unexpected. I had assumed any feelings developed after marriage. Then why didn't you pursue me? I teased.
He frowned.
You used to tell everyone you weren't interested in dating. Focused on your career. I clicked my tongue. And maybe I wasn't interested in them. You're exceptional. I'm drawn to strength. I smiled. Funny. I feel the same way. At 29, we welcomed our daughter. By then, both of us were established in our respective family businesses. We adored her, washing our hands obsessively before holding her after work. At 1, she was chubby, bright-eyed, and recognized us instantly. Late at night, Peter and I would plan her future, always circling back to the same hope, a life filled with peace and joy. Epilogue, Peter's perspective. I wasn't surprised. I loved Allison. She was brilliant, strong, captivating. Even before we were close, I noticed her. Stage performances, competitions, school events, she stood out. After college, joining the family business, no one else stirred my heart like she did. When the Sief family suggested a marriage alliance, I spoke with my parents. She agreed. Married life was predictable, but I knew Allison had married for reasons beyond love. That insecurity gnawed at me. Rumors spread that she had a lover. Friends urged me to divorce her.
Why?
I was her husband. Why step aside? I researched seduction, planning how to remove any imagined rival. Then she dragged me out one night to meet her canary, a tiny, fluffy bird. I admit it. I was jealous of a bird. But the thorn in my side disappeared. Allison confessed her love for me after we married. My wife loves me. My wife really loves me.
The moral of the story is, the best way to get your neglectful husband to come home every night is to start a rumor that you're keeping a canary in your private villa.